Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Guys, how are we doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Jenny. I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful.
I don't think you are. I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but the nation's top critics are killing LeBron's Space Jam, which opens today. I'm sorry to inform you of that, Mr. Sharp.
No, Twitter is killing LeBron James.
No, the top critics are, and we're going to discuss that in just a few minutes right here on this show, unfortunately for you.
Unfortunately for you. So maybe not so wonderful, maybe not yet. Oh, and Shannon, I don't know if you're going to feel good about this. We have to begin with the one, the only, the GOAT to start the show, because believe it or not, the legend of Tom Brady keeps on growing. We all know the GOAT had a minor surgery after the Super Bowl to clean up a knee injury, but now details have emerged saying the issue was much more serious. According to multiple reports, Brady apparently played through a torn MCL for the entire season with the Bucs. So Shannon, I ask you, how impressive was this?
First of all, details did not emerge. Tom Brady teams leaked this information. They did not emerge out of all of a sudden. This information came out of the sky before the season's about to start. The following season's about to get up underway. But here's the thing. It's impressive, but I'm not that impressed by it because he plays a position that's not reliant on physical ability, his ability to move around. Now, because it relies on him to be subtle, not sudden. Now, Lamar Jackson playing with this, Kyler Murray playing with this would be more impressive, Skip. I think the more impressive thing for me that Tom Brady did last year is uprooting his family, leaving one team after 20 years, going to a new team. Although the team was immensely talented, he goes to this team. It's in a COVID season. He doesn't have the normal. The one thing that we know about Tom Brady, he likes the monotony of doing things over and over and over again, being able to show up at the same time, being able to get his throwing in, being able to meet like he normally would. But because of protocols, the COVID protocols that the NFL set in place, he was not able to go through a normal, what Tom Brady would like to think is a normal season. So that, in him going there, playing as well as he did, getting his team to a Super Bowl in his own building and winning that was more impressive to me than him playing with a torn MCL, Skip, because he's not reliant on his legs to move around and make plays like that. Like I said, he's a subtle player, not a sudden player. So all things being equal, I believe what he accomplished outside of the injury was more impressive than him playing with the injury. Because, Skip, let this sink in. He had 401 completions. That's only one fewer than he had at any point in time in a season. Lets you know the level of talent that he's playing with. Even though he was 43 years of age, he was still able to get it done. So I believe because he plays a position and he had an injury and the position that he played, he's not reliant on his legs to run around like some quarterbacks are. I believe that's less impressive than what he actually accomplished going to a different team after 20 years and winning the Super Bowl. But lo and behold, right on cue, now a new season, we're about to do this. Because what you're trying to do, Skip Bayless is going to come out here and bang on the table. He beat Aaron Rodgers. He beat Drew Brees. He beat Patrick Mahomes on a torn MCL when the guy was never that mobile. So it didn't require him to do anything out of the ordinary, in which he didn't do. We know that when he sees a hit coming, he's going to do the fainting goat. He's going to fall to the ground. He's not taking unnecessary punishment, and rightfully so. But I believe the most impressive thing he did was leaving one location after 20 years, going to a different location and winning the Super Bowl. That's more impressive to me than him playing with a torn MCL, considering that he's not a mobile quarterback and he's not trying to move and leave the pocket anyway.
My turn. He beat Aaron Rodgers. He beat Drew Brees. He beat Patrick Mahomes on a torn MCL. Are you kidding me?
See, I knew it.
Thank you for setting me up for that. Shannon Sharp. You just refuse to give this man full credit for anything. You just discount and undercut everything this man ever attempts to achieve in the league in which you starred and in which you now represent in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You will just not give in to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Am I correct about that?
Skip, I said it was impressive. I said it just wasn't the most impressive thing that he accomplished. You told me yourself, when people have torn meniscus, you tell me yourself, you've had that injury and you've gone out and gone and run. So how difficult is it?
Different ball game. We're talking about the ligaments. There are 3 big ligaments, as you well know, that stabilize the knee.
Yes.
And if one of them is ruptured or torn, you have no more stability in your knee. It's going to wobble from side to side, and it's going to buckle under you when you least expect it. The cartilage tear is different because it will just catch in the mechanism of your knee unexpectedly, and it will bite you. It will be excruciating for a moment, but you can sort of shake it off. It will just be more of an irritant, an annoyance after a while, as we saw Joel Embiid attempt to do in the playoff run when he played with a small tear in his cartilage. And that's a whole different ball game from this ball game. So my conclusion to this is this closes the case that last year for Tom Brady was the single greatest season accomplishment of anyone in the history of your league. And you detailed much of it, but this is the, if you will, the icing on top. This is the case closer, because to your point, it was a COVID season. It was a COVID off season. He joins a brand new team, a team that had gone 7-9 the year before, a franchise known as the Succaneers, which had the worst winning percentage in all of sports for its history, a new coach, a new coaching staff, and with little to no offseason preparation and 0 preseason games, he dives into the fray. They lost the opener at New Orleans, predictably, because the NFL threw them right into the fire. And they had their ups and they had their shocking downs, a lot of them on national television, such as New Orleans again on a Sunday night at Tampa, and it was a mismatch. And yet Brady slowly but surely created the Patriot way in Tampa Bay. He brought that team to a boil, including, as you always point out, the defense. And everything began to click right on schedule when Tom Brady is always the biggest money in the playoffs. And they went to Washington and won, and they went to Breeze and righted the wrong at New Orleans. And they went to Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers had his first ever home NFC NFC championship game. And Brady beat Rodgers at Lambeau, which led to Brady outplaying Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, albeit in his home stadium back in Tampa. What an extraordinary achievement, topped only by the breaking news, and I'm going to agree with you, this had to come from Brady's camp. I guess there's a chance it came from somebody inside the Buccaneers organization, but it actually makes the Buccaneers look pretty shaky, because not once did Tom Brady appear on the injury report for a knee that I'm aware of. So will they get fined for this? Very possibly they will get fined.
That's a small consolation, Skip. After winning the Super Bowl, whatever you find me, I'm good.
Okay. The other little piece of information that shocked me was that, according to whoever leaked the source, leaked the news, is that Brady tore his MCL in New England at the end of that disaster that befell him and his team at the end of the previous season. Obviously, they lost the home playoff game to Tennessee. I don't know when that was. The story didn't indicate when that was. But I believe the story because Rick Stroud is the reporter who has covered that team for years in Tampa, for the Tampa Times now.
Yep.
And I know Rick Stroud, and he is top notch. And if he reported it, I'm taking it to my bank. So if he reported that Brady had torn it at some point late in the season in New England, I'll buy that. The other shock to me, Shannon, is if you rupture or tear your MCL, why wouldn't you get it fixed last offseason ahead of your first season in Tampa? Is it possible he just didn't want that out there because he was a free agent and he thought maybe that would ruin his chances of landing a new gig? Maybe.
There's some of that to it, Skip, but it tells me that if he knew he ruptured it, he didn't even tell the Patriots because he didn't want the Patriots to know, which leads me to believe he knew all along he was leaving New England. Because, Skip, if there's a possibility that I'm going to stay there, I'm going to have it fixed. Well, I'm not having it fixed. I'm not telling anybody anything is wrong with me because, first of all, I don't want you to fix it. And then, second of all, I don't want anybody to think I'm damaged goods. Because remember, Skip, if I got a torn MCL, I'm already 43 years of age. I'm going to be going into a different situation. I'm going to be viewed differently, even if I'm Tom Brady. So he's like, I'm going to keep this, let's keep this hush as long as we possibly can. And as you said, things started to roll in their favor in a positive manner, and they go on and win the Super Bowl. But like I said, I don't remember him being on the injury report in New England. Now, that's a long time ago, but we'd have to go back and pull the records and see how many times did he show up on the injury report for a knee. Now, I know he missed some practices, and they said because of his shoulder, but I don't remember him missing any practices or time off because of a knee.
Okay, so now back to your original point. Was this leaked, in fact, by somebody in Brady's camp or maybe Brady himself to Rick Stroud? Sure, highly possible, highly probable. Is Brady trying to enhance or embellish his GOATness? Is he just trying to build the legend to an even higher height? Sure he is, but he deserves to. Because I'm going to remind you, think about what he went through for all those years in New England under the thumb of Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Remember what happened the week before the AFC Championship game at home against Jacksonville, which led to the Philly debacle in the Super Bowl. But remember what happened that week on, I think it was a Wednesday practice.
Right.
I think it was Burkhead somehow reached for, that's what they report. I don't know what the truth is. You had trouble. You had issues with the truth of this, and you could be right about it. But somehow, some way, Brady tore open the palm of his throwing hand 4 days really, before the AFC title game at home against what was called Saxonville, one of the hottest defenses in the league at that point, especially rushing the quarterback. And according to Brady, it required 12 stitches in the palm of his throwing hand. And obviously, the stitches alone would make it a little awkward and a little dicey trying to hold on and spin the football, especially in cold weather. So I thought it was pretty great that he sucked it up, as he's often done with other injuries, and just said, hell with it, I'm going to do this with the stitches in my hand. And there was all kinds of what was written in several books about what were they going to do. Were they going to cover the stitches? And at the end, minutes before kickoff, he took off the glove and just said, I'm just going to go with this. Okay, so he goes out. They're behind 20-10 early in the fourth quarter at home to Jacksonville. And Tom Brady proceeds to throw for 138 yards in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and they roar all the way back and win the game 24-20. And in the postgame, when his coach, Bill Belichick, was asked about Brady sucking it up and playing with the wounded right hand, Bill Belichick's response was, well, it wasn't exactly open heart surgery. Okay, well, it wasn't open heart surgery, but it was a pretty big deal, at least in my point of view.
For a quarterback,
I would say it's a pretty big deal. It's not open heart surgery, but for a quarterback, it's nearly the equivalent of. So my point is, I think that stung Brady to his core.
Of course.
I think it angered him. I think it just made him sick that coach wouldn't give him the slightest bit of credit for sucking it up and playing, and not only playing, but starring in the fourth quarter and saving another day in Foxborough, right?
Skip, can I speak to you from an athlete's perspective?
Yeah.
What we get really upset about is when someone tries to minimize the extent of our injury. It's easy to say because it's not your hand that's opened up. It's not you that's going to have to, with an open hand, go throw a football. But, Skip, I tried to tell you for the past 5 years, I said Brady is more human than you think. He might not, I say, but he's seething underneath. He hears what his coach is saying about him. He's minimizing him. Even after everything he's accomplished, he minimizes him at every turn. I said he might not ever say it, but trust me, he's seething underneath because he's human. You didn't want to believe me at the time that I was saying it. And once he got out of there, you listen to that Brady talk. He talks in code, but he makes it abundantly clear. I'm very happy. I appreciate everything that I was able to accomplish. I appreciate what Coach Belichick did for me. But as I got older and I'm in a different environment now, I realized we probably could have won just as much with not his iron fist on every single thing, without him talking down in a condescending manner to every single one, every single person, player on that team.
I so agree. I hear you. And I remind you that 2 weeks later, in a Super Bowl game in Minneapolis, Tom Brady threw for an all-time playoff record, not just a Super Bowl, a playoff record, 505 yards. And scored 33 points. His offense scored 33.
Correct.
And Belichick's defense gave up 41, in part because mysteriously and never to be explained, at least yet, Malcolm Butler was doghoused for the whole game. The defensive player who had played the most snaps during the regular season on defense didn't get to play a single defensive snap in a Super Bowl game for no reason that we are aware of. And Brady was obviously livid and furious after that, leading to his remarks out here in L.A. in Santa Monica to Jim Gray a month or so after the Super Bowl, in which he made his first critical remarks of Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots organization. That was the beginning of the end.
Yes.
Okay, so it leads to this, and I got you. Brady leaked this because he wanted it known, because he wanted this to be the greatest story never told, now being told, in part because he had to just swallow it for 20 years in New England and put up with that coach who's now obviously on the hot seat, struggling. We'll see how they do now as they go forward with a potentially new rookie quarterback or Cam. But I think Brady thinks he's got Belichick on the run. He's obviously got the advantage for the moment. All he did was go win a Super Bowl for another team. So my point is, yeah, Brady's gloating over this. He's beating his chest over it, and I don't have any problem with that because he's earned the right to do it. And I do think it was extraordinary that he played an entire season with a new team and won a Super Bowl at age 43 on a torn MCL, which leads us to your contention about he's not the most mobile quarterback. Obviously, he's not. Well, I'll give you this. There is no way Lamar or Kyler could play on a torn MCL. I don't think they could even, they wouldn't even try. The team doctor, their personal doctor would say, you can't even try. You got to get it fixed now. And you're going to miss this season, right?
Yeah, no skill. Skip, I don't believe any skill position player could play with that because, like you said, that's a stability ligament. And skill position players need stability. Now, Tom does wear a knee brace, and he's not doing any sudden movement. Always, like I said, his movements are subtle. They're not sudden. You mentioned two guys that their movements are sudden. There's nothing subtle about Lamar Jackson, about Kyler Murray. And so for me, Skip, and also, this goes back a little bit further, Skip. This goes back to the Deflategate, when they asked Coach Belichick, and Coach Belichick was driving a big 18-wheeler and drove it over Tom Brady. Said, I don't know nothing about no football. Ask Tommy. Tom is like, hold on, wait a minute. What you mean, ask Tom? Instead of just saying, look,
he did.
We inflate our footballs to the regulation, and to the best of my knowledge, that's what they were when the officials came and checked them. Anything outside of that, we we, the team, doesn't know anything about. But you don't point the finger at your quarterback when you know he's the guy that he and Peyton Manning was one of the two guys that had the NFL to lax the rules that says, let us have the footballs up until Sunday so we can throw them, get used to them, instead of just taking the balls out of the box and then going and playing football with them. So that was really the start of it right there, Skip.
It was.
But like I said, Coach Belichick brought them on himself. But Skip, Tom Brady just built a $150 million house, and he put mink carpet and chinchilla on all the walls and the floors. It's unnecessary. Tom Brady telling you this information after everything that he accomplished this year was unnecessary. But to him, it was very necessary because he wanted to show the one guy that it mattered to the most. He'll never say this, Skip. I don't believe he'll ever say this publicly or privately at fear of it getting back. This championship meant more to him than any other championship.
I agree.
The only one that would have come close was the 19-0 championship. Now, that wouldn't have touched this one. I mean, it would have touched this one. But of all the Super Bowls that he won, I believe this one is the most important to him.
Okay. Final point of contention. I am going to defend Brady on his subtle movement. It is subtle. I give you that. But it's also movement. Because he has some of the greatest pocket feet I have ever witnessed. Montana had great pocket feet. There's something to be said for the subtle movement to buy a split second from side to side, to feel the rush, to slip here or slide there, and get the throw away. And he is not good. He's all-time great at that. And to do that, you have to trust some stability in your left knee. And I don't think he trusted it much at all. He had to work around it. And trust me, at points it would start to buckle. At points it would ache. At points it would irritate and annoy. So he had to just mentally refocus on other things down the field and forget about the irritant that was his knee. It wasn't debilitating. It didn't stop him from playing, obviously, but I think it was a handicap for Tom Brady, and he had to fight through it. And my final takeaway is he got it fixed. And I'm looking forward to seeing Brady at age 44. He turns 44 on August 3rd. Happy birthday, Ernestine, a few weeks in advance. Love you. But the point is, at 44, he might even be better than ever on a fixed MCL. I can't wait.
Yeah, but Skip, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are times I've seen Tom Brady practice without that knee brace. Now, we know he's ever since he's injured that knee in 2008, he's always worn that knee brace. So he's practicing without it. So it tells me that, you know what, I'm not going to be doing a lot of movement. But once you put that knee brace on, Skip, it does give you a feeling, a sense of comfort and stability that you know, okay. And besides, like you said, he's not going to be doing no dot to dot. He's not going to be going side to side and front to back like a Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. But, Skip, it's impressive. But I don't believe that's the most impressive thing that he did last year, playing through that. It was going to a different location and winning the Super Bowl. That was more impressive than him playing on an MCL, torn MCL, to me.
Greatest single season in the history of the NFL.
There you go. See?
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. last year.
Let me just say, Ernestine and Tom sharing a birthday is about as good as it gets.
How cool
44.
is that?
I know. It's a perfect fit for you, Skip. Fixed MCL. Shannon.
Ernestine's going to get a gift. Ready. You know who's not getting a gift from Shannon.
Be ready. We have so much more to get to today. No mercy. Well, home security video has emerged showing Richard Sherman's attempt to break into his wife's parents' house earlier this week, throwing his body into the door and shouting expletives to the people on the other side. Meanwhile, a judge ordered the free agent cornerback to be released from jail without bail yesterday following his arrest for the incident, citing Sherman as, quote, a pillar of the community and noting it was his first arrest. Sherman's next hearing is set for later this afternoon. So, Shannon, reacting to this video, what is your reaction to all of this?
Well, for me, Skip, I didn't need to see the video because the police report said he tried to break down the door. So I know what trying to break down the door looks like. So I didn't need to see the video. See, Skip, it's kind of like, you know, when I read the paper where I hear someone says, well, the person was decapitated, I don't actually need to see the photo. of a headless corpse to know what decapitation means. So I didn't really need to see the ring video, the camera, to show me that Richard Sherman was trying to break in, because I know what that looks like. But Skip, as I said before, Richard Sherman has been a pillar, a stalwart in the Seattle community. The football aside, the way he's been a great businessman, the way he's been so active in the community, sometimes you need your reputation to precede you in a good manner. And in this situation, Skip, you're going before a man or a woman that knows something about you, but the reason you're coming before them today has nothing to do with the reason why they know about you. So you're hoping that your good standing, your great name, it precedes you. And that's what the judge said. This man has been a pillar in this community. He's been a great businessman. He's been great in the community. Yes, we know he's an outstanding football player. And he says, release this man. He did set some rules and some regulations that he believes Richard Sherman will adhere to. And so do I. He has to stay away from the father-in-law. Okay, fine, that's no problem. But I love the way his wife came to his defense and says, we love Richard. He's been a great father. He's been a great husband. And we're going to get through this. John Lynch, who was his former boss, general manager of the San Francisco 49ers, says we reached out to them and offered resources because we're praying for him, because this is a good man, this is a good family. And whatever assistance that we can offer, we've asked them to reach out to us. So, Skip, this is about as good an ending or a beginning, well, this is the middle part, this is not the ending, as we could hope for. Hopefully, Richard gets the help, because it seems like he was intoxicated. Seems like he was very agitated. And they said before he was going through some things. And like I said before, hopefully Richard gets the help that he needs, and the road to recovery is right around the corner. I'm not concerned about Richard Sherman, the football player. Right now, my concern is Richard Sherman, the man. Richard Sherman, the husband. Richard Sherman, the father. Get those three things in order, and the football would take care of itself. Even if he never plays another down in football, Richard Sherman's place is secure in NFL history. So I'm glad this is about as best that you could hope for. He didn't have to post bond. They released him on his own recognizance. And they said, Richard, we expect you to adhere to the rules and regulations that we placed before you. He assured him that he would. And I'm glad this is the way it's turned out. And so hopefully Richard can get the help that he needs and we can move forward.
I hear what you just said. I will echo that I'm glad it turned out for the better. A situation that the other night at that door could have gone so wrong, and I'll discuss that more in just a second. But clearly, Richard was fortunate that the judge knew his reputation in Seattle. Maybe the judge was a fan of his or a fan of the Seahawks. And I believe the judge dealt with him fairly in the correct manner. And it was interesting to me, the prosecutors did not even pursue the more serious charge, which was the felony burglary domestic violence charge that was possible for the judge to at least to entertain at that point. And that's the one that came from what you see in the video of him trying to knock the door down. That's called burglary domestic violence. Domestic violence because the wife and their kids were inside with the father-in-law who was ready to protect them at all costs. But the point was, now there are 4 potential charges, and they're misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor charges, not nearly as serious as that felony burglary domestic violence.
Correct.
And fortunately, nobody was hurt, except Richard did have to get a few stitches at the hospital because it finally took the police canine to subdue him as he did resist arrest. Is all well that ends well? Well, again, it had started long before this because, as we talked about yesterday, the Seattle Times had reported that back in February, that King County prosecutors up in the Seattle area and the sheriff's department had obtained an extreme risk protection order for Richard Sherman, which barred him from having guns after a judge determined he posed a danger to himself or to others. His wife has acknowledged publicly he has been suicidal, and he has undergone some counseling prior to this situation that escalated the other night. Obviously, he's driving over to get he wanted to go get his kids, and they were at the father-in-law's home with the wife and her sister. And he drove into a construction site and ultimately totaled his black Mercedes, and then he winds up at the door, and we saw the video. So allow me quickly to comment on just how dangerous that situation was. You've got the wife and the sister on the phone, 911, for a half hour while he's trying to knock the door down. He had the code to the door, but they had the latch on the inside, and he couldn't break all the way through. But he did get it open to a point, and while they are screaming on the phone for please hurry to get here and try to stop this, the father-in-law bear maces Richard through the slightly open door, bear mace, and it's vicious stuff. And he got him. And the father-in-law said he had also armed himself with his handgun and was ready to use it.
Yeah, see, that's how it could have went terribly. It could have gone terribly. Could have went terribly wrong.
Hey, Shannon, you know better than I. The pride at stake between the father of the wife and Richard. You've experienced, I know I've experienced those situations where the father-in-law is protecting his grandchildren while Richard wants his children back. But Richard is clearly intoxicated, not in his right mind, and is nearly unhinged. Well, thankfully that didn't go. Thankfully he didn't completely open the door, because I don't know what would have happened at that point.
The father showed tremendous restraint. Because from the time that he brought the little girl into the world, which is his daughter, his responsibility is to be her protector. Not just until she gets 18 and she's an adult.
No.
He is her protector forever. So for him to show that kind of restraint, and I get it. Like I said, Richard was intoxicated. He's agitated. The only thing he's thinking, you're keeping me from my kids. Clearly, he's not in his right mind. And the father-in-law basically said, because you're not in the right place that you need to be, I'm trying to protect you. And I'm so glad that he wasn't able to get through. I'm so glad that the father showed tremendous restraint, because I know a lot of father-in-laws that wouldn't have shown the kind of restraint that he showed, especially once you start kicking stop kicking the door, bro. And they say, Richard, go home, sleep this one off. We've called the police. I'm sure they probably told him, the father-in-law probably told him, Rich, we've called the police.
They're on the way.
Go home. They're right. And so kudos to the father-in-law that you showed the amount of restraint that a lot of people would not have shown in that situation. And also to the daughter, because she's like, you know what? I've known this man for such a long time. And what I've seen over the last couple of months is so far from what I know him to be. I know something is going on. And I don't want, and you know, Skip, you get married, it's for riches and poor, in sickness and in health. Not just in great times, but when things go bad, when things are going wrong, you need to stand beside that person. It would have been easier for her to walk away. Maybe Richard Sherman's not going to be a professional football player. So you know what? Hey, you're not in the NFL. I'm going to walk away. She said, nah. When I took those vows and I stood next to you, I said for richer or for poor, for sickness and in health, for better or for worse. Okay, we're at the worst part right now, but I'm not going anywhere. We're going to ride this out together for our family. And I'm so glad. So many times people take the easy way out, but that's not what she did. Congratulations to the father-in-law for showing the amount of strength that he took not to do something that temporarily would have caused a lifetime of possible regret. So we got a great ending. We got as good an ending, Skip, as we could have gotten in a situation like this.
And you discussed and addressed this yesterday, but given all the tragic incidents we've had in the past year, 2 years involving police and black men and women, I am so thankful that situation didn't escalate to tragic proportions, because the police said they stopped a couple of blocks away in their cars and decided to walk up to try to de-escalate the situation. They obviously knew it was Richard. And they had conversation for maybe 10 or so minutes that they described as jovial. But Richard was mercurial, as he tends to get. way up and way down. And as soon as they suggested that maybe we should put some handcuffs on you and take you in, he said, if you try, the quote was, according to the police, it's going to be a long day. And it started getting to be a longer night for them because they started to have problems. And as he took off to run, one of the officers said, I found myself squared up with Richard coming straight on. And he said he used what he had been taught at the police academy, a takedown maneuver that worked. And he said once Richard calmed down after that, he joked that was a great takedown. It worked. You got me. Yes. You know, and so fortunately, that de-escalated. And that all that happened was one officer had a minor injury and Richard got bitten by the police dog who ultimately subdued him. And again, I don't love that, but at least it was just a few stitches at the hospital. They took his blood for his blood alcohol. We'll hear the outcome of that maybe later today. And now, to your point, this is much bigger than football. We just hope that Richard can get the help that it sounds like he already was getting the help that he needed. And in the end, my only issue for him going forward is this will not help his chances of getting signed by somebody in the next month or so. And the last quick point about the video, we obviously live in a video age, Shannon. I get it that you said I didn't need to see that. I didn't either. But video is so it is so active. It detonates our feelings on the internet, obviously, and it creates hysteria. And if I can hark back to the Ray Rice video, he might have still been playing football if not for the video of him obviously hitting his wife in the elevator that finally was leaked. But this isn't nearly that. But the point is, as you know, your league, the National Football League, is as image conscious as any league. And I fear for Richard's sake that the video will escalate the NFL's need to go ahead and suspend him because everybody saw him at his worst trying to knock the door down.
His reputation takes a little ding. His image takes a little ding, but that's not something that he can't repair. And I believe he'll do a great job of repairing, letting people know the real Richard Sherman. I had a bad night. See, Skip, for me, in situations like this, I'm not willing to throw away 30 years of great that a person has done over one bad incident. Something like this. Now, obviously, there are certain things that, it's a little more difficult to come back from. But I believe this is something that Richard Sherman can absolutely come back from. And I believe he's starting to take the steps. And as you mentioned, you said that he was taking the steps in order. Well, now probably alcohol needs to be removed from this equation. Clearly, because he doesn't handle that very well. You get agitated, you add alcohol to the mix, you got a combustible situation that could end very badly. So, like I said, once this thing's removed, I'll reach back out to Sherm, and if there's anything that I can do, if I can talk, we talk, anything, he knows how to get in touch with me. I know how to get in touch with Sherm, but I just want what's best for him and his family right now. And this football, hey, it is what it is, but let's get the Richard Sherman, the man, the husband, the father, let's get him healthy, and then the football situation will take care of itself.
Really good points. And we'll wait and see how the NFL handles this. And again, really just hope that he and his family are doing okay right now. That's all there is to it. Let's transition to the NBA Finals right now as the Suns are looking to bounce back from Wednesday's brutal loss ahead of Game 5 in Phoenix tonight. Fox Bet Sportsbook has the Suns as slight favorites to take a series lead, but they'll need a bigger contribution out of Chris Paul, who was held to just 10 points on 5 of 13 shooting while also committing a costly late turnover in Game 4, which we remember. So, Shannon, what do you expect from Chris Paul and the Suns tomorrow?
Well, I expect him to play better. I don't believe Chris Paul can play any worse than what he played the other night. And I know, Skip, you said this is probably one of his worst games, if not the worst game of his career. And Chris Paul has played a long time. He's had some bad games, I'm sure But when you factor the moment, this is an NBA Finals, Game 4, you think about the stage in which he's on and how hard he's talked about waiting a lifetime for this moment and for him to play as poorly as he played. Skip, I'm not saying scoring the points. The scoring the points, yeah, you'd like to have Chris Paul score 20 and get you 10 assists. But it was the turnovers. It was the ineffectiveness in which he, turnover after turnover when they were right there in the ball game. That's what was so disappointing. And I'm sure when Chris Paul looks back at this film, he's like, man, was that me? Or was that somebody impersonating me? Because I'm the point guard. I'm not supposed to play this bad in a situation like this. Big-time players play big in big moments. Well, I look at Chris Paul as even though he's a small player, Skip, he's a big-time player that plays well, and this was a big-time moment, and I expected him to play well. So I expect Chris Paul to play well. The question is, what are they going to do to get Ayton more involved, and what are they going to do to try to neutralize some of Giannis' penetration, playing at the rim? Because, Skip, this guy's shooting almost 80%. He's shooting 80% against everybody that's not named DeAndre Ayton. He's shooting less than 40% against Ayton, and he's attempted 9 3-pointers against Ayton. He's attempted 1 against everybody else. So therein lies the dilemma right there. Ayton's going to have to stay out of foul trouble, and they're going to have to do a better job of neutralizing Giannis. Middleton got hot. But, Chris, as far as Chris Paul, I expect Chris Paul to play. Do I expect 41 closeout Chris Paul against the Clippers? No, I do not. Because I don't believe Holiday, and I think that's what's hurting Holiday's offensive production. He's exerting so much on the defensive end.
I agree.
Man, Skip, he's picking Chris Paul up 94 feet every possession. But you say, that's okay. We got Middleton. We got Giannis. They can give us 60, 70 points between the two. Anything you give us, as long as you keep Chris Paul neutralized, we'll accept that. But I expect Chris Paul to play better than much better than what he played on Wednesday.
So I think you're leaning Suns tomorrow night?
I am leaning Suns tomorrow night.
I guess I am too, but I'm to the point where I am lost on this series. And the shock of shocks is CP3, Chris Paul, the point guard, has become the wild card in this series. The X factor is that guy. I cannot get it through my head that one day here, sitting right across from me, you were campaigning for campaign to get more minutes, and Chris Paul fewer minutes because he was starting to look old against my Clippers, and you were correct. And he came right out of that to Game 6 and shot them right out of the playoffs. I've never seen anything like it before. He played his greatest game to end the Clippers series at Staples in Game 6, had another great game in Game 1 at home against the Bucks, and then we went all the way to a Game 4 at Milwaukee, and he played absolutely his worst playoff game ever. It has to be the worst game of his entire career, obviously given the magnitude, the stakes. And he, above all others, cost his team a 3-1 lead, a commanding, like a championship. It would have been a virtual done deal. If Chris hadn't played that poorly and committed certainly those atrocities of turnovers in the fourth quarter. Especially the one with 32 seconds left. I still don't know what was happening. He gets the switch onto Giannis, and then he palmed the ball and completely turns it over to his right hand, and then just unforced error, just lost the handle.
Skip, he just lost his footing.
I don't know.
He just falls. Look at this, Skip, he falls.
I don't know. How do you... And then they get an easy run out to Middleton the other way, and it's game over.
Yes.
That's the point guard. That was it. That's the flashpoint of the whole game. Phoenix was up 9 early fourth. They were up 5 with 5:30 left in the fourth, and they could not close a deal that would have virtually closed out Milwaukee in the finals. So I don't know what to expect from Chris, except I think he'll bounce back. His stats for the whole series are pretty good. He's 53% from the floor, 44% from 3. That's for all 4 games. The problem's been he's averaging 4.3 turnovers per game. That's not Chris Paul. That's not him. It's hard to win that way.
It really is. And Skipper, you know this. It's kind of like football. all turnovers are not equal.
No.
A guy throws an interception in the first quarter, and then all of a sudden you throw one late in the fourth quarter. Your turnover carries more weight than his. Well, it wasn't the 2 turnovers that Chris Paul had in the very first minutes of the ball game that doomed him, because you had a lot of play in between. It was the last 2 that prevented you from getting shots at the basket. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe you get fouled. Maybe you get a bucket. Maybe you get an and one. We don't know, but what we do know is that those turnovers led directly to Milwaukee getting runouts and getting baskets, and you got nothing in return. But I expect them to play better, Skip, and the Suns are going to have to do a much better job of keeping the Bucks off the glass.
Yeah.
Skip, I mean, they're getting crushed on the glass, especially offensively. You can't give a team like this that many opportunities at you. You did a great job forcing them to take ill-advised shots. Okay, now punish them even more by getting the rebound.
Yeah.
But when they take bad shots and they get the rebound, they're basically saying, Skip, it doesn't matter the shot.
No.
We're going to get the board anyway.
Okay, so to me, this is shaping up to be the classic home court advantage finals, where the home team wins every game, which would mean Phoenix would end up winning a Game 7 at home to win the championship.
Skip, I wouldn't chance that, though, Skip.
Well,
not with
Giannis.
Who
knows what could happen in a Game 7.
Yeah.
It's just shaping up that way to me. And the reason it is because Giannis does not make as many free throws on the road as he does at home, clearly because he doesn't have a crowd chanting 1, 2, 3, 4 and trying to speed up the count on him to shoot it before he's ready psychologically to shoot it. So what have we seen in games 1 and 2? Giannis went 7 of 12 in game 1 at Phoenix and 11 of 18 free throws in game 2. So that's a grand total of 18 of 30 at Phoenix that he made, which is not terrible, but it's still 60%. At home, he made 68% in games 3 and 4. Well, that's a significant difference because he shoots a lot of free throws. So I'm guessing that Phoenix is just going to say, let's just attack him. Let's make him shoot free throws. Let's let our crowd try to get in his psyche and discombobulate him and get him out of whack and out of rhythm, get him frustrated, and hope that he'll just come unglued because we're quick counting him at the free throw line. So I think that the crowd advantage is the Giannis free throw line advantage in Game 5.
Skip, and the Phoenix Suns should be very fortunate. They're minus 29 on offensive rebounding. They're minus 26 in rebounding in general. You don't normally lose the rebounding battle by those kinds of discrepancies throughout and you only play 4 games and be tied 2-2. So you're very fortunate when you're giving up this kind of discrepancies on the window, on the glass, and you're still tied 2-2 and you're going back home. So just imagine, and like Monty said, well, we can clean that up. Well, when are you going to clean it up? You talked about it game 1, talked about it game 2, talked about it game 3, talked about it in game 4. You keep talking about it. One of the reasons why I can't be a coach, because that's something like Monty said. We talked about this, guys, and we go out there and we don't do what we talked about. I'm losing my mind. I'm yelling and screaming. That's the difference between basketball coaches and football coaches, Skip, because basketball coaches, they're a little bit more subtle. If you go over something with a football coach, you've been in with Jimmy, you've been around coaches, they're going to lose their mind. Guys, we practice all week. We say they're going to try to get the ball and pull the ball out, and what the hell do? We go out there and let them pull 2 of them out, and we expect to win the ball game. Monty was calm. Monty was like, guys, these things are fixable.
Well, he was also mic'd up and on TV, so he knew that. But listen, if you'd put Jimmy Johnson in that role, he would have called out Chris Paul and said, you're better than that. And Devin Booker, you're better than your 5th foul and your potential 6th foul. We can't live with you playing that kind of dumb basketball. That's what Jimmy would have said.
Yes, most football coaches would have said that, because normally Mike would say, hey, he'd always tell, because the camera people come in right after the game because they're doing footage because you have local broadcast, right? Mike was like, hold up. And then Mike go say what he gonna say to us. And then once the cameras come in there, guys, we got to play better. That ain't what you just said. No. You just cursed us out, and now you're gonna talk about we just need to play better. These things are correctable.
Okay.
But we're gonna find out if they're correctable on Saturday.
I got it. Bottom line for me, if you look at the playoff careers of Chris Paul and Giannis, they've both had more than their share of disasters and disappointments.
Okay.
So now, from here on, 5, 6, maybe 7, it's going to be which of these superstars is less disappointing. Somebody's going to have to be less disappointing and win this thing, maybe by default. That's why I'm still on the edge of my seat.
Skip, here's another thing. Chris Paul is going to have to give some assistance to Book. Because if Giannis doesn't play well, we see Middleton is starting to heat up. And we know, Skip, he can win you a game by himself. Although he's not a superstar, we just saw him go get 40. We saw him last year in the bubble when Giannis was out, go get a 50-piece. Mm-hmm. We saw what he did against the Nets down the stretch, games 5, game 6, game 7. He's their closer. So Chris Paul has to come along because he's one of the few other guys that can go get his own shot. Ayton is dependent on Chris Paul. Yep. He's dependent on somebody getting him the ball. Well, Chris Middleton doesn't need anybody to get him the ball because he can bring it up and do what he needs to do himself. So it's going to be incumbent because I don't have no concerns about Devin Booker. Devin Booker is going to be booked. But Chris Paul is going to have to, these next, however many games we go, Skip, Chris Paul is going to need to be sensational.
No mercy. All right, guys, LeBron's new Space Jam movie comes out today. And while many people are excited to see his take on Michael Jordan's 90s classic, some of the reviews have been not so good. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, "I've never seen anything like it. I also hope to never see anything like it again. And I wish I could unsee what I have seen." He did not hold back with that. Shannon, do you feel that Space Jam, A New Legacy, will be a stain on LeBron's legacy here?
No. I think the thing is, a lot of times social media has made everyone a movie critic, an analyst, a political pundit. Jenny, it's funny that you said that about what this critic said.
Okay.
Because let me tell you what the critic said in 1996 when Space Jam was released. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 44%. One of the movie critics said Jordan proves to be as good an actor as he was a baseball player. This isn't Looney Tunes, it's sloppy tunes. In basketball terms, Space Jam is more akin to garbage time that concludes lopsided games when reckless playing is no substitute for the real thing. Now they re-released it again 20 years later in 2016. It got 85%. You see how the test of time? Okay. It got better. The same movie that was crushed upon its original releasing got better through time. Wow. Who knew? Yeah, Skip, I'm just telling you.
It got more crushed this time. It's worse this time.
No. What I'm telling you is that the original Space Jams was crushed. Just like what you're trying to do, you're trying to make it seem like Space Jam, the original Space Jam, got 90% from Rotten Tomatoes. It got these. No, it did not. No, it did not. It got crushed. And
well,
if
it didn't
this
get
movie
crushed, it got 44%.
Skip, do you realize 50% is good? That's good. That's mediocre. So it's below that. So what is that? You see what the movie.
But think about this. LeBron is so beloved by the media in general. I think everybody, all these critics, these aren't Twitter critics. These are respected big national critics. I think they all went into this hoping that LeBron had pulled it off.
Was he more beloved than Michael?
I think he is. He's more protected than Michael. Stop it. You know that's not to be true. We're not going to get on that on TV, but you know that not to be true. Okay. All right. But here's the critics' consensus right now on Rotten Tomatoes, where they sum up what everybody is saying. They say, despite LeBron James' best efforts to make a winning team out of the Toon Squad, Space Jam: A New Legacy trades the zany meta humor of its predecessor for a shameless, tired exercise in IP-driven branding. Shannon, I've been trying to warn you for a month. This was just a bad idea for LeBron because he's trying to be Jordan or beat Jordan, and you just can't.
Skip, he took it in a totally different direction.
Original. That's what it was.
And guess what? The original was originally bad because that's what the movie critics said. This isn't Looney Tunes, it's sloppy tunes. Jordan proves to be as good an actor as he was a baseball player. In basketball terms, Space Jam is akin to garbage time. That's what they said in 96. Now they re-released it at the 20-year anniversary in 2016, and they got an 85. How the hell does a movie at 44% Rotten Tomatoes get 85% Rotten Tomatoes 20 years later? How?
Well, the criticism is much more scathing to me this time because Jenny read Richard Roper, who's one of the biggest, most respected critics in the nation.
Roper is, yes.
Yeah, I got it. And I'm going to read it one more time. I have never seen anything like it. I also hope to never see anything like it again. And I wish I could unsee what I have seen. Well, you can't dismiss something any more harshly than he did that way. And here's one of my favorite websites, Entertainment Weekly. Here's the review, a line from the review. Here's the thing about basketball. It is extremely watchable. Here's the thing about Space Jam, A New Legacy. It's not. Scathing.
Skip. Anytime you're dealing with real actors and then you add CG, this is not Blue Chips. This is not Hoosiers, because now all of a sudden you got characters, Bugs, and all these guys in. So you got to ingratiate them. You got to blend those guys in. They said the same thing about the original Space Jam, that it wasn't good. And over time, somehow the movie got better. I don't know how a movie gets better over time if the original wasn't good. So how was the original that got the ratings that it got in 96 all of a sudden get better ratings in 2016? Because that's what Jordan.
Obviously, LeBron thought he could be Jordan and beat Jordan.
No,
like
Skip,
I said, he thought he could outdo Michael Jordan at what Jordan did best, which is captivate on and off the basketball court.
But guess what? Jordan didn't captivate in 1996 in the original, because that's why it got crushed. And LeBron James took the original. He took the original movie. A lot of times, Skip, when you do a sequel, I don't know if this was a sequel, but he took it in a totally different direction. This is not The Godfather where you 1, 2, and they follow each other. This is not Fast and the Furious 72, where they take it in basically the same direction as cars, and they're jumping out of planes and doing all this stuff. He took Space Jam in a new direction.
Okay,
I'm not Skip.
I'll give you this. The original has become a cult classic.
Thank you.
But I got to tell you, I'm as you know, a huge movie fan. So are you. But
yes,
I love the original. I thought it was culty classic. It was so different. It was so weird. It was so zany that it got me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I could watch it again tonight, and I might. But I'm also going to watch with an open mind. I'm going to watch New Legacy, tonight, because it's on HBO Max. So I will give you my open-minded review on Monday, and I would like to hear yours.
No, you won't. Here's the thing, though, Skip. You don't think some people are going to like this new movie, the new Space Jam movie, A New Legacy? You don't think some people, just like some people thought the original Space Jam was good, you don't think, even though the critics creamed it? Do you not think? We see that all the time, Skip. That's why I don't really listen to the critics. I want to go see the movie for myself, because what I think is entertaining and what I like, a lot of times the movie critics don't. Because the movie critics want everything to be Casablanca. They want everything to be the Maltese Falcon. They want everything to be Gone with the Wind. And that's not the case. Everybody doesn't make movies trying to win Academy Award. You're not trying to win the Oscar. You're not trying to win the Academy Oscar for costume design or set design. And I think critics need to get that through their head. Every movie is not meant to win the Academy Award.
By the way, just off the record, and I mean just sort of off base here, but Ernestine and I started watching The Maltese Falcon the other night, and we couldn't even get through it. It's terrible. I'd never watched it before with Humphrey Bogart. But
yeah,
okay.
But they swear by it.
I know. Now, Casablanca is all-time great. I could watch that tonight. But, okay, I get what you're saying, and sometimes I read the reviews, and I watch it, and I say, what's so bad about this? It's entertaining, whatever. I got it. But in this case, the reviews are nuclear bad. They're saying don't even start to watch it. So I'm going to give it a fair shot, but I warned you that LeBron is at some legacy risk here because he's going to be compared to Jordan in the original. And I told you, this feels to me like a ripoff of the original. And I don't know how different it's going to feel, or if they're going to take it different, like you said with Fast and Furious. Are you going to go a completely different direction? I have no idea. I watch the commercials, and all I see is LeBron saying, "Are you kidding me?" And that's my bottom line to the whole production. Like, are you kidding me? You're going to try to top Jordan in that Space Jam? Because that's a bad idea.
No, it's not a bad idea. Because like I said, at the original, when they made, in 96, when the original Space Jam came out, it got creamed. And 20 years later. So maybe LeBron get creamed, and then 20 years later, everybody gonna say it's a cult classic. That seems to be the way we're headed with Jordan, because somehow, for me, I don't understand how the Washington Wizards didn't stain Jordan's legacy. But people forget that. Somehow, all of a sudden, people got amnesia. All they remember Michael Jordan's career is 91 through 98. Nothing else happened.
Shame.
All the years before that, and the years that after he left and went to Washington, none of that matters.
He took 3 years off and quit on principle because his coach got pushed out the back door in Chicago. So he gave up the final 3 years of his prime, and he came back at age 39 in Washington. He was just a ceremonial player.
Ali gave up 3 years of his prime and came back and got the title. It was historically great.
But he wasn't 39 years old when he came back.
Well, Skip, that's his fault. He chose to do that. Because why? He was the great Michael Jordan. He thought he was invincible. He really believed he could fly. He really believed he could withstand time.
Well, so does LeBron, and unfortunately for LeBron, he's 4-6 in the finals, as opposed to being 6-0 with 6 MVPs. And we got a big movie coming out, and you need to enjoy it. Watch it with an open mind, which I know you only got part of the mind open. I am totally open-minded. I hope it's good. It's not going to be great, but I'm going to hope that it's at least watchable. Jenny, did you hear what he just said?
Yes.
He just said it's not going to be great. He said he was going in. Yolo, you just said you was going into it with an open mind. How can you go into it with an open mind and then in the same breath say it's not going to be great?
Because I already have some perspective. My expectations are lower. I'm trying to lower them so that I don't go in saying, okay, you better be Jordan here. I think it could be decent, maybe. I hope. I go into a movie with no expectations. I'm going in to watch. I don't care what they say. It's not like they don't pay my money. They get to watch the movie for free. So I'm going to watch the movie, and I honestly have an open mind. Now, if a movie isn't very good, I don't have a problem saying that. I spent my $30 to go see it. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's not very good. I'm gonna go see this. I'm gonna keep an open mind, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's not. Yeah, you and the blind witnesses, and there are a billion of those out there. Everybody's going to say, it's the greatest thing ever. It should win the Academy Award. Skip, I'm just trying to figure out how can 44% say the movie was terrible in 96, but 85%, so it gets an extra boost of 41% 20 years later. So did they add some scenes? Did they delete some scenes? Was it somebody else participating in the movie? What did I miss? So how does Godfather, if Godfather, let's just say for the sake of argument, Skip, it got a 90 rating. How the hell does it get a 100, go to 100 50 years later? It can't. It is what it is. You see what happens? It's Michael Jordan. See, Michael Jordan, all of a sudden, he was already a cult hero. Yeah. Now it's even more. Shannon, don't do that, Skip. Shannon, I'm sorry to inform you of this, but there's Michael Jordan, and then there's LeBron James. No.
Even hit the screen when you do that.
Skip, you see right there, Skip? That's where it is, right there.
Right there? Teeter-tottering? I mean, the movie. And you know, and it's right here, Skip. It was right here for the longest time. And then something happened in 2016. Yeah, something happened in 2016. Draymond got suspended. That's what happened. Okay, can we all promise that we go into the movie right here and Space Jam, New Legacy, we go in open-minded. Let's just watch it, enjoy it, and talk about it on Monday. I'm really enjoying this. He already talking about, it's right here. Jordan right here. Around here. Maybe LeBron's not trying to be MJ, just trying to be LeBron in this one. No mercy. Team USA Basketball announced Bradley Beal will be unable to participate in the Olympics after being placed in health and safety protocols earlier this week. The Americans will now need to find a replacement for Beal's scoring on the roster. Trae Young and Ja Morant have both been suggested as additions, and They've both been posting some cryptic messages on social media, seemingly about the news, with Trae posting a frowning emoji and American flag with Isaiah Thomas' Last Dance clip, and Ja replying, "Keep working, dog." Interesting there. Shannon, should Team USA consider adding Trae Young or Ja Morant? Who do you want?
Well, I mean, since Bradley Beal is a guard, they're probably going to replace him with a guard, Skip, and I would take Trae Young because he's a more facilitator. You can bring him off the bench after Dame. Dame is averaging 3 assists a game. Now, I'm not expecting anybody to average 10 assists a game, Skip, for the simple fact the amount of minutes that you play. It's not like you play stretches of 7, 8, 9 minutes in a ball game because, if I'm not mistaken, I think they only play 10-minute quarters. So you're not going to get what you would traditionally get in a basketball game where guys playing an abundance of consecutive minutes. But I do think Trae Young is a better facilitator than Ja Morant, and he would be better suited. Skip, I actually think they would need a big, but when I look at all the bigs, you look at Yoke, Embiid, Anthony Towns, Gobert, Capella, a lot of these guys, Skip, were born outside of the USA or play on other international teams. So we're fresh out of American bigs, Skip. We ain't got nobody. So if you're gonna go with a guard, I would say Trae, because he can facilitate better than Ja Morant. I think he's a better scorer than Ja Morant. Now, he's not the athlete that Ja Morant is, but I think they got enough athleticism on this team. We're undersized, but it's not like Bam going to grow overnight. Draymond's not going to grow overnight. And those are our bigs. Skip. We will look at it. Kevin Durant, Draymond, and Bam, those are your bigs, which are really not centers in any stretch of the imagination unless you play it the way we currently play in the NBA. But not in international play would those guys be what we consider traditional bigs.
Yep.
So if you're going to go with a guard to replace Bradley Beal, I think Trae Young is probably your best option.
So I saw one report that speculated Christian Wood was a possibility because he's 6'10", to your point.
Right.
Maybe. Then the ESPN report was that they're considering Julius Randle, who's been out of the country celebrating his birthday, which makes him a long shot. Tobias Harris. And as a shooting addition, Duncan Robinson, who can, as we know, he can really shoot it.
Right.
But Bradley Beal can really, really shoot it.
Yes.
I think he's a huge loss because he's such a great shooter and scorer, and he was so happy to be there. First time, childhood dream. Popovich said yesterday that he was crushed for Bradley because Bradley was so into this and so ready to go to Tokyo, and now he can't. And I don't know what's going to happen to Jeremy Grant. He's in the protocol, but it sounds like he doesn't actually have COVID, so maybe he'll be a possibility come Monday. They still have one more. They canceled the game tonight, but they're supposed to play Spain on Sunday, I believe, and then fly on Monday to Tokyo. Okay, now we have Trae flat out campaigning on social to be the replacement for Bradley Beal. Ja had a couple of posts that indicated he was interested, but then his last post was, no, I'm good. Like, it's not that big a deal to me. But back to your point about Trae, yeah, he's a really good passer. In fact, he may turn out to be a great passer of the basketball. But I don't think he's Coach Pop's cup of tea because he's high usage rate. And what they ended up having to do in Atlanta, and Nate McMillan did a great job of this, the world has to revolve around Trae. It's just who he is. It's his makeup. It's his nature that you have to have everybody playing off Trae because he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. And he's going to shoot it quite a bit. He's going to take some ill-advised threes because it's just part of his brand. It's just who he is. He's got to take a couple of logo threes a game. So in the end, he plays little to no defense, can be a liability on defense, especially at the international level, FIBA level, because it's so physical that I think that all the people who run Team USA, you know, again, starting with Coach Pop, I just think Trae doesn't fit what they're trying to accomplish. I just don't think he's like Bradley Beal will just be a cog in the system. If he gets the open three or the open jumper, he'll take it. But Trae is going to dominate the ball in ways I don't think they want the ball dominated at the Olympic level. That's just me.
But if you think about all the guys that have gone to the Olympics, and a lot of these guys been ball dominant, that's not the way they play in the Olympics because they understand that everybody here in their own right is great. You look at Dame. Dame hasn't taken any logo threes, and we know Dame normally gets
Not
3 or
yet.
4 of those up a game. I don't believe he will. Skip, we were talking about the game in Nigeria. He had an opportunity. I was like, Dame, shoot that. That's well within your range. Shoot it. And he passed it up. So I believe Trae, given what Nate McMillan has been able to do with him, Trae, we don't need you to take as many threes. We need you to do a little more of this. And you look at it, since Nate McMillan took over, he was a different player than when he was under Lloyd Pierce, Skip. Yeah. So I believe you can channel him. I believe Coach Pop will say, Trae, now we're not going to need you to take these logo threes. We're going to need you to get in and out of offense. We're going to, pass the ball to the open guy. And I believe he can do that, Skip. But it's not like we got a whole lot to choose from.
No.
It's not like, Skip, it's not like we got an Elijah Wan, or we got Patrick Ewing, or David Robinson, or we got Tyson Chandler in his prime, or prime Dwight Howard. Skip, we ain't got no bigs. All the bigs are foreign and boring now.
But
so
we got one.
Who we got?
He's 7 feet tall with a 7'7" wingspan. He is the best player on the planet. And that includes every country in the world. On the planet, his name is Kevin
52
Durant.
pounds. He weighs 52 pounds. so how is he going to be on the block?
He plays like he weighs 300 pounds.
Skip, KD's going to be KD. KD's going to be able to get buckets. But, Skip, they play a physical, but they don't call charges. They play a physical style of basketball. And so the NBA players are going to have to get used to, you can't sell calls in FIBA. No. You can't flop in FIBA because they're going to just look at you like you're crazy, get up and play on. Yeah. So, I would love to see them add it big because I believe we got plenty of shooting. With Zach LaVine, Jason Tatum, Dame, KD, I believe we got plenty of shooting. But I would like to see them add a big, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be in play. Yeah. But like you said, Skip, what are we going to choose from? Give me all things being equal, who would you like to see them add? All things being equal.
I think Christian Wood is underrated. I think he's pretty good. So if you want a big body, a banger, that's probably the way to go. I know it's not the sexiest name and he's off radar, but I know he is highly respected around the league. So again, if you want to add some muscle to it, that would probably be the right way to go.
All things being equal, Skip, I would love for Kawhi to be healthy and be playing. I would love AD to be healthy and be playing. LeBron, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Exactly.
Well, look, to your point, they built this to win shooting. They're just going to outshoot you. So given that, I'm not going to be surprised if they go for Duncan Robinson because and I know he can flat out shoot it, and he's not afraid. And I don't think he would be afraid of the Olympic level and the spotlight. I think he'd be just fine. So if you want to do that, add him.
Well, it's not like he's going to play any better defense than Trae Young.
No.
So
he's just bigger, taller.
He's a bigger, he's a better shooter from three. I'll give you that.
And the other problem Trae Young would have, it's so hard to develop instant chemistry with Trae. And remember, in FIBA, you cannot carry or palm the bat. They will call it like that. That's why, a lot of people have advocated that they'd like to see the NBA deploy the FIBA rules because it cleans it up. It makes it real hardcore basketball. So Jared Dudley said that the other day.
But Skip, here's the thing. NBA fans don't want real hardcore basketball. They want to see the and one style Kyrie, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard type handles. They want to see the palming of James Harden and the 3 steps to the side. They don't want to see those FIBA rules.
Hey, guys, I'm just seeing this right now. Team USA is going to have 2 people to replace Woj. Tweeting Kevin Love has withdrawn from Team USA. He's still dealing with that right calf injury.
Really?
Hold on, he was there?
Yeah, I know. That's the point. He wasn't there to begin with.
Come on.
Oh, my bad, Jeannie, my bad.
What about that, veteran leadership he was going to provide? Either way, Kevin Love is out as well. So we've got some roster spots.
Did you not see him play? Jenny, skipping out and watching Kevin Love play.
I did not see him play.
There was some criticism.
Because he didn't.
But either way, he's not going to be there. So we have another roster spot to fill. This is interesting. Team USA, I mean...
Boy, the pressure is on Kevin Durant.
Suggesting yourself right now, Shannon?
Put your boy down to that block.
No.
No mercy.
After losing his fight last weekend and undergoing surgery, McGregor has now been claiming that Dana White and the UFC knew he had pre-existing injuries in his leg heading into the matchup with Dustin Poirier. Neither the UFC nor the Nevada State Athletic Commission that oversaw the contest has commented on the accusation at this point. So, Shannon, are you buying that Conor had pre-existing injuries in his leg?
Let's just say that it is true, Skip. This is not a good look for the UFC. But I think the stress fracture saved Conor McGregor from having a stress fracture in his face because I believe Dustin Poirier was going to really beat him down. I just think the way they are, they're very close in age, Skip. But I just think the advanced level of the versatility that Dustin Poirier now has in his fight game far outseeds Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor has not evolved as a fighter. And so, therefore, I don't believe he was going to beat him even without the stress fracture. So let's just take this for what it is. He says that all the doctors, I think the guy is Dr. Jeff Davison, is the head doctor at the UFC. And Dana White also knew that this was going on. Now, I understand, Skip, this is a big fight. You don't want to have a guy pull out at the last minute, but you put the guy in harm's way. And you're not supposed to do that. Now, you're supposed to have all fighters says that you fill out a pre-fight medical questionnaire when they compete in Nevada. Now, somebody's going to have some questions to answer. Somebody's going to have some questions to answer, Skip. And I get it. And this is why it explains why Dana White was so willing. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier 4. After you saw what just happened, the man got beat handily in the first round, was getting beat this time, and you're so easy to just throw this up there. Basically, it seems to me that Dana said, hey, Conor, go out there, no matter what happens, there'll be a rematch on top of a rematch. Yeah. And, we don't want to cancel this fight because when Conor fights, Skip, it's the biggest draw in UFC. Yeah, there are other guys that did the fight. I like Ngannou. I like Usman. I like Adesanya, the style bender. I like all those guys. Yep. But they don't rate. They don't draw like Conor McGregor. And you don't want a guy of this caliber pulling out, a week before or a couple of days before the fight because it basically would kill your card.
I hear everything you just said. I'll be the first to say I don't know whether he had pre-existing stress fractures. He said multiple stress fractures in his left leg.
Right.
I'll admit I'm suspicious about it because...
Skip, he put names, though, Skip. He put names to it.
He called them out by name.
Yes.
And usually in Conor's past, when he calls somebody out, he's on the right side of that argument.
Correct.
But here's my question. If you know that you have these pre-existing stress fractures in your left leg, and you know that you're close to pulling out of the fight, then why would you enter the fight with a whole new strategy against Poirier of opening up with a whole lot of kicking with your left leg? Why would you do that? If you were so concerned about your stress fractures, why would you put your left leg in harm's way immediately? Help me out. Why would you do that?
That's not normally how it works, Skip. You see fighters, when they break their hands in the fight, they're very reluctant to throw a punch with that broken hand. So if Floyd Mayweather had very brittle hands, and Floyd have fought a lot of fights, basically just throwing the jab and the hook because you don't, Skip, that's painful. That's very painful.
And remember, in the previous fight back in January, Poirier had used his kicking to his advantage, where that had been a shocking new way that he had punished Conor with the kicks. So now Conor was saying, I'm going to fight fire with fire. I'm going to start opening up by kicking you. Well, you wouldn't do that if you have stress fractures in your left leg because you're just daring the devil, and the devil won because, remember, right away, in the first minute of the fight, he tried a left-handed kick. It caught Poirier up in the thigh. And Poirier said, I heard a crack. And remember, he points down to his leg like, you just cracked your leg. And so it wasn't any surprise to Poirier that near the end of round one, the worst thing happened and his leg buckled completely underneath him. So that is a little suspicious to the point of inexplicable to me. Obviously, Conor's reputation is failing, and his drawing power is diminishing by the fight. And obviously, he hasn't just been losing fights, he's been getting his ass kicked in fight after fight since he went 10 rounds with Floyd, obviously.
Right.
So it's just still, I was a little also suspicious. I thought maybe Dana or the doctor or the Nevada State Athletic Commission would respond immediately. We knew nothing about it, and the silence is deafening on their part. So maybe he did have these pre-existing injuries. I hope so for his sake. And to your point, I agree with you. Fate intervened and saved him, took him off the hook from an even worse beating facially from Poirier in round 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Skip. Normally, we don't see guys when they have an injury, they favor that leg. In other words, I'm going to fight an orthodox stance because Conor is a southpaw. Conor's left-handed. So I was switching, so I'm not trying to use that. But he was kicking as if nothing was wrong with the leg. So that I agree with you. I'm like, okay, there's nothing. If there's something wrong, I'm not going to fight with my injured. I'm not going to try to use that. I'm going to try to stay away from that. But for whatever reason he chose to kick, maybe he's trying to, throw Poirier off. But I just don't believe, Skip, at this, where they are in their careers, I just do not believe Conor McGregor can beat Dustin Poirier again.
I don't either.
I just believe that the skill level in which the advancement in which Poirier has added to his game, and Conor McGregor is basically the same fighter that he burst on the scene. He still has dynamite power in his left hand, and that's what he's trying to end the fight with. But guys realize that. But Skip, Poirier was not afraid to slug it out with him toe-to-toe.
No.
Khabib was not afraid to slug it out with him toe-to-toe.
No.
And then when they take him down, Skip, they keep him down there for the rest of the match, and they just punish him. So I just don't know. I just don't know where he goes from here because he's at least a year away from fighting again. So now you're going to add more inactivity because that has been his problem, Skip. He's only fought 4 times in the last 5 years. And 3 of those 4 times, Skip, we've seen him sitting in the ring, sitting on his butt.
We have.
After he got choked out or got pummeled out. Now, he can say, well, doctor stoppage. The doctor saved you from a real good one.
He did.
That's what happened. He saved you.
Well, in the end, I got to give Conor this. He has now planted enough of a seed of doubt in my mind and probably many people's minds.
Yep.
It will make Poirier 4 slightly more marketable, even though I'm going to give him little to no chance. At least I'll think, well, maybe he wasn't healthy, and maybe I'll give him a chance. But remember, he's now got rod and plates in his leg, and it's going to be at least a year before he's going to be able to bounce up off that leg again.
Well, Poirier's like I said, I'm not sitting around waiting for Conor McGregor.
No.
I think Oliveira has the belt. Dana, let me get that fight.
Yep. I got it.
No mercy. Tonight, the long-anticipated wait is over. The fans return to SmackDown on Fox. The superstars of WWE will finally get a chance to hear the roar of the crowds for the first time in a year and a half. Live from the Toyota Center in Houston, it's Friday night, SmackDown, 8 Eastern on Fox. The fans gonna feel good and loud. And in a recent interview, Stephen Jones admitted the Cowboys made a mistake not signing Dak to a long-term deal the first time around instead of letting the franchise tag scenario drag out the way it did. Still, the hype for Prescott's comeback season is in full swing now, and now Pro Football Focus is jumping on the bandwagon as well. They list Dak as a potential first-time All-Pro selection at quarterback for 2021. The hype is real. Shannon, can you see Dak making first-team All-Pro right now?
Hell no. Everybody has the potential to be first-team All-Pro. Guess why, Jenny? Because they're all in the NFL. That's how it works. You know, when everybody got upset with me and they say, well, Nigeria has 5 NBA players on their roster. Guess how many on the USA team roster? All of them. So there's the difference. Skip, you and I both know good and well. So now all of a sudden, this year, he's going to be better than Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be better than Tom Brady. He's going to be better than possibly Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Really? Let me tell you something, Skip Bayless. Your team, the Dallas Cowboys, have made the playoffs 3 times in the last 11 years. Guess what significant happened that year? Their running back led the league in rushing. In 2014, it was DeMarco Murray. 2016, it was Zeke Elliott. 2018, it was Zeke Elliott. That's what you were able to do, run the football. And that year, you led the league in pass attempts 50% of the times. Skip, but you're not the same. Zach Martin is starting to show wear and tear. Tyron Smith played 154 snaps last year. He missed time the year before. So now the injuries are coming with greater regularity, and they're keeping him down for longer periods of time. Lyle Collins missed the entire last season with a torn labrum in his hip. He's back. You got no Travis Frederick. He retired because of he said, I just can't perform to the level that I'm used to. And Tyler Biadasz, I think I'm saying his name right, right? He ranked 33rd out of 37 eligible centers. Really? And you're going to leave and Dak Prescott behind that. And you guys were never known for protection because, remember, it was that offensive line, which was great at the time, that got Tony Romo crushed. It went crunch, and you ended up missing. He missed 2015, and then you got Dak Prescott, and you know the rest is history. So, no, I do not believe Dak Prescott is going to be first team. He's going to be the first team. Y'all going to the Super Bowl. If Dak Prescott is first team All-Pro, you're going to the Super Bowl. I got 15 cases right now that he ain't going to be first team All-Pro quarterback. 15. As a matter of fact, make it 1,500.
All I care about, and I want to be very clear about this, is that I will win another swimming pool of Diet Mountain Dew.
No, you won't.
Because you believe that somebody other than my Cowboys will win the NFC least, and
yes.
you will be wrong about that.
You
my
gave me all the other teams.
Definitely good enough to win the East or least.
Skip, you gave me everybody except the Cowboys. So you told Shannon, take the field. I took the field.
Good. Take it and run with it right over the edge of the cliff into oblivion and splash down into all the dew that you owe me.
Okay.
So the point is, as much as I believe that Dak and company will win the East next year, when I read that last night Pro Football Focus is proclaiming Dak Prescott as the top candidate to break through among quarterbacks and be first team All-Pro, meaning the best quarterback in the league next year, I was dumbfounded. I was blindsided. I was flummoxed. I was astounded because, I'm sorry, as much as I love Dak, even I can't go there. Seriously? And the stat I keep reading now is Dak Prescott, before he got hurt, in those first 4 games that he played full games in, he threw for the most yards in the history of the National Football League in those first 4 games.
Yes.
So what?
Now
one of them. I have to give in to my man Shannon Sharp, the Hall of Famer, who kept saying empty calories. Well, what happened in the first 4 games? My team should have been 0-4. It
Correct.
took a miracle, not a minor miracle, a major miracle of an onside kick recovery at the end of the Atlanta game for them to pull it out 40-39. They trailed in that game 26-7 and 39-24 before they miraculously pulled it out.
Correct.
And yeah, Dak threw for 450 yards in that game. Guess what? Against the worst pass defense in the history of the National Football League. The history. Well, how can you put any weight in that? How much credibility can you cast into 450 yards against the worst defense in the history of the National Football League pass defense?
Exactly.
In a game that you trailed 26-7. And then at Seattle, they fall behind 30-15. And then Cleveland at home, they trailed 31-14, 41-14 entering the fourth quarter. What do you think's happening? Empty calories are happening like crazy. Dak threw for 502 yards, and they still lost 49-38, in large part because the defense was abominably bad. But I can't read much into this, and I keep using the stat, which is the most horrifying stat of all to me. Dak Prescott, in his last 17 starts for my team, has won 6 and lost 11. 6-11, and you're telling me he's going to break through and break out and be the best quarterback in football next year? I hope so. That would be a major miracle to me because in the end, Shannon, like Pro Football Focus last year in the 4 games ranked him the 7th best quarterback. So I don't know what they're doing. Is this just a clickbait story? I have no idea, because all I know is I even disagree with what Steven said. He was laughing when he said it, that his only regret is they should have signed Dak the first time around. Well, you've said that 100,000 times on this show. And I get it, but I don't, because they tried to sign him early in that 2019 season. Jerry Jones said after the opening win against the Giants, right? Yes, the Giants. After the opening win, he said signing Dak is imminent, as in we've agreed on the money. We just got to cross the T's and dot the I's. Mm-hmm. And you know what happened? He had another big game against a bad team at Washington.
Miami.
And another big game against a bad team at home, Miami. And here we went into stalemate and impasse because Todd France, the new representative for Dak Prescott, said, April Fool's, Jerry, in September, because we want a whole lot more money. And all of a sudden they went to, quote unquote, contract war. Well, how did Dak respond to the pressure of betting on himself? Well, he was pretty horrible down the stretch. The last 13 games of that season, Pro Football Focus ranked him the 18th best quarterback. And you know, and I know, I don't need to give you the road litany of disasters where they just kept losing game after big game on the road, and the offense was miserable. And it went all the way to the last game at Philadelphia, and the offense was still miserable. And Dak missed a big throw to Tavon Austin at the end of the game that might have changed it. And I don't have anything to show. So it's hard for me to say, well, they blew it by not signing him early. I think they tried, and then they finally just got caught and stuck because they thought there wasn't a better option than Dak. Yeah, well, given that, you should have signed him the first. You should have given him what he wanted earlier instead of having to pay later. Right.
Well, yeah, Skip, if you look at it, Skip, if you look at the guys that have been the first-team All-Pro quarterback, you look at their team, Lamar Jackson, 14-2. You look at Manning twice, 13-3. You look at Brady. You look at Rodgers. You look at Mahomes. That's what it takes to be the first-team All-Pro. Because, Skip, there's only one spot. It's not like you got two tackles, 2 guards, 2 wide receivers. You get one spot. And you look at the combined record, I think probably the lowest, somebody was probably 12-4 or 13-3.
Sure. No, I agree. If he's first-team All-Pro, they're like 13-3 with home court advantage, home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Right?
Extra game, Skip, 14-3. Now they got an extra game, so they're like 14-3 or 15-2.
I don't really understand the runaway hype train for Dak Prescott. I don't know if it's because he became such a sympathetic figure, he got hurt, and he had the tragedy off the field. I don't know what it is. I hope it's correct. I do. I can't tell you how much I would love to see him be first-team All-Pro. But recent history does not suggest that's going to happen in any way, shape, or form. And to your point, not only is the offensive line iffy at best, aging and oft injured, but how about the 3 receivers that I thought going into last year had 1,000-yard capability, all 3 of them?
Yes.
Well, ESPN's recent poll ranking receivers, well, not one of the 3 made the top 10 or the honorable mention second 10. Not one of them. Even Amari didn't make the top 20 receivers. And it's hard for me to defend him because he's been so bad on the road.
Skip, but I've been trying to tell you that I can go 12, 15 guys deep before I take Amari Cooper. And people, no. I say, you take the fandom out of it. And I'll go down and Devontae and Julio and D-Hop and Justin Jefferson. And you look at these guys, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown. You're not taking Amari in front of those guys. You're just not.
You're probably not. I do think CeeDee's going to have a breakout sophomore season. And so I think he's going to become the number 1 and the go-to receiver for Dak Prescott. So I'm banking on him, but still, to bank on Dak being the best quarterback in football is, I got to say, it's pretty preposterous to me.
Oh, and Skip, receivers, I left Tyreek and Keenan Allen. I didn't even mention Tyreek and Keenan and Mike Evans. I mean, so it's a ways to go for them, Skip. But I was like, okay, Pro Football Focus, y'all, I don't really put a whole lot of weight in y'all. But I say, when y'all talking about Dak, first-team All-Pro quarterback. So, Skip, think about it. they've been hyping about Brady and the grades that he got, and Mahomes and the grade that he got. And, okay, I understand Rodgers because you don't know if he's playing or not. But considering that Mahomes' offensive line got better, Brady, a year under his system, offensive line is back intact. Everybody comes back intact. So you expect them to be better. So Dak just going to just pole vault them.
I don't know. All I know is NFC least, I got you.
No, you don't. No.
I got you.
No. You're not winning that. Okay. See? They got you hyped up believing that Dak got to be about to be first-team All-Pro quarterback.
I got you, Giants. I got you, Washington. I got you, Eagles.
No.
Okay, Shannon, we're going to let Skip be optimistic, excited about the Cowboys right now. This is the time where we let him have that moment.
Okay, let him have his moment.
Start. We'll get back to it.
No mercy.
Well, the Suns are looking to bounce back from Wednesday's brutal loss ahead of Game 5 in Phoenix tomorrow. Fox Bet Sportsbook has the Suns as slight favorites to take a series lead, but they'll need a bigger contribution out of Chris Paul, who was held to just 10 points on 5 of 13 shooting while also committing a costly late turnover in Game 4. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard joining us now. Chris, what do you expect from Chris Paul and the Suns tomorrow with this one?
Well, Jen, I think I'm the only one on our esteemed panel that can say this. I've picked every game correctly so far. I'm 4 for 4 in the finals. So take this to the bank. Phoenix wins today. Is Shannon? Shannon is too? I thought you had Phoenix in 5.
6.
All right, but anyway. All right, I got Phoenix winning tonight. And I think Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton bounced back. Ayton, this was his worst offensive game of the playoffs. 6 points. We know he had the 17 rebounds, but I think he bounces back with at least double-figure scoring. So I think that's big. But Chris Paul is going to play better. There's been all this hand-wringing about his struggles, and rightly so. 15 turnovers in the last 3 games. We get that. He was horrible in the Game 4. But overall for this series, these are Chris Paul's numbers. 21 points, 8.3 assists on 52% shooting. Like that, those are his averages. So he's not having a bad series. He was bad the last game. The 2 before that, he had a high number of turnovers, but he scored, he assisted pretty well. So I think he bounces back and has a big game. Here's the other thing, and I'm not going to totally discredit Jrue Holiday because he's big, he's physical, and he was deservedly on first-team All-NBA defense this year. But there's the talk that he's shutting down Chris Paul. When you look at the numbers, Chris Paul is 14 of 18 shooting when Jrue Holiday's on him. That's 78%. Chris Paul has 9 assists in 22 minutes with Jrue Holiday guarding him. The problem has been this. In those 22 minutes, Chris has had 7 turnovers against Jrue Holiday. He's got 7 against the other guys who've defended him in 99 minutes. So Jrue has forced him to make some bad decisions, bother him a little bit. But Chris Paul he's too smart, he's too sure-handed, I believe, to keep this going with the turnovers. So I think he's going to get his 22 points, 8 or 9 assists, and cut down on the turnovers. I think Devin Booker's big, Ayton's better. And here's the other thing, guys. On the flip side, Chris Middleton. Just about every time in these playoffs that he's had a big game, he's followed it up with a poor one. Even Game 1 of this series, 29 points in Game 1 when Giannis was so-so, and then he follows that up with 11 points. Okay, against Brooklyn, he scores 38 one game. Follows it up shooting 9 for 26. You can go through the Atlanta 38 one game. Follows it up with 16 points. So I don't think we're going to see, especially on the road, Chris Middleton be close to what he was in Game 4. So I got Phoenix tonight or Saturday.
Yeah, I took Phoenix also. I agree with you, Chris. And I think the biggest thing with Ayton is that they need to get him the ball. I mean, give him an opportunity. He can post. Ayton has a nice turnaround game. He can pick and roll. You got to give him opportunity. I mean, reward the big guy. He seems to be the only guy that's getting rebounds. So you got to reward him on the other end by giving him some opportunity to get some buckets. They're going to have to do a better job of keeping Milwaukee off the glass. Milwaukee is a plus 26 in rebounding, plus 29 on the offensive end. With those kind of stats, Chris, the series shouldn't even be tied 2-2. Because when you get crushed like that on the glass, give this type of a team opportunities, you normally get beat. And it reared its head in game 3 and 4. But the disparity seems to be growing. They're going to have to correct that. If I'm Monty Williams, I'm looking for a way to try to get Cameron Johnson a little bit more playing time because he's the guy that can stretch the defense by making shots. Mikal Bridges has 2 fewer points in games 1, 3, and 4 than he had all of games 2. He had 27 in game 2. He has 25 in the other 3. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. And I'm going to, before I turn it over to you, Skip, if I'm Monty Williams, I'm going to DeAndre Ayton. I'm saying, big fella, whenever Giannis is on the floor, you're going to be on the floor. When he takes that early break in the first quarter, I'm going to come get you. But as soon as he gets ready to go back in, I want you to watch him. As soon as he gets up off the bench and heads to the scoring table, I want you to go sit right next to him because you're going back into the ball game. Because that's the difference. If you look at him, Giannis has scored 34 points on Ayton, but it's taking him 33 field goals to get it. He's attempted 9 3-pointers on Ayton. He's attempted 1 against everybody else. He's shooting 80% against everybody other than DeAndre Ayton. He's shooting less than 40% on Ayton. That's your ball game. Ayton's going to have to mirror him. I don't care where he go. He go dap his brother up Fannis. I'm right there with you. Hey, bro, give me some of that, too. You my brother today, too. I'm going everywhere Giannis goes if I'm DeAndre Ayton. Thanasis, I think that's his name.
Okay, my turn. I have some breaking news. I just heard from our man Lil Wayne. He will be courtside tomorrow night in Phoenix. That means Chris Paul will be great tomorrow night because they are brothers. And every time Chris looks over and sees Wayne in the first row, he's in his comfort zone. Wayne is his good luck charm. Wayne calms him down and focuses him. And it's you can laugh or ridicule it all you want. It's no small thing for Wayne to be courtside, to be comfort zone courtside for Chris tomorrow night. I do think he'll bounce back. I do think he'll have a very good game, maybe not a great game, but I am still shook up and jarred. I don't have the prognostication genius that our man Chris Broussard has right now because I can't get through my head, through my thick skull, what I have witnessed from Chris Paul coming out of nowhere in Game 6 against my Clippers after our man Shannon Sharp had campaigned on that morning show for campaign to get more run, more minutes, and get Chris Paul out of there because he was starting to look old. That's what I heard going into Game 6. And then I saw him score 27 points late third all the way through the fourth quarter to knock my Clippers out of the playoffs. It was simply the greatest playoff game, the greatest game I've ever seen Chris Paul play. And that got followed up by a pretty great game in Game 1 and then leading up to Game 4 the other night. To me, that's the worst game I've ever seen Chris Paul play. I know Chris brought up that Oklahoma City game where he just melted down at the end of the game in the last minute. I got you. But somehow the magnitude of this in the finals, with Devin Booker having one of the greatest games of his career, all you had to do was close a deal in which you led by 9 early in the fourth quarter and by 5 with 5:30 left in the game. And it was Chris Paul's fault. He was the one who came completely apart and lost a game that could have put them up 3-1 and made them virtually the champions of the NBA. And it jarred me so hard that I'm still not sure exactly what to expect, but I do think it's a big deal that Wayne will be there. And I think Chris, having the basketball backbone, the character that he has always displayed basketball-wise, I think he'll bounce back. And I've said from the start, Phoenix is just a little better than Milwaukee. And I think Giannis will have a harder time making free throws tomorrow night. I think they'll send him to the line 20 times. Maybe he'll make 10 of them or 11 of them. And that will be the difference in the game because the Phoenix crowd will be the sixth man, quick counting him into oblivion. So I do like Chris Paul and the Suns tomorrow night also.
Chris, before you go, Chris, for the game to be as close as it was, it's not very often that you're minus 12 offensive rebounds, you're plus 12 in the turnover margin, and you're minus 12 in the minus 10 in the free throw margin. And Chris Paul had an opportunity to either tie the game or even give you a lead. So when you have numbers like that, Skip, and I think that was the thing that Monty Williams was speaking to, look at how bad we played, and we were still right there. So we can clean this up. And there's no question in my mind, but you got to keep them off the glass. You got to cut down on the turnovers, and you got to keep them off the free throw line.
No doubt, Shannon. I mean, it was 2 stars against 1 in Game 4. And
Yep.
2 guys from Miami, Giannis and Middleton, that played well versus Booker, and they still had a chance to win. So I'm with you. I also think what you said about Ayton was really important because I think the officials are going to let Ayton play. Like, I don't think they're going to get him out of there early. And I'm not saying there's, the fixes in or anything like that, but I do think they're going to let him play so they don't foul him out, so it makes it a better game, a more competitive game, which certainly helps Phoenix because he is the only guy getting rebounds. They've been getting crushed on the glass, crushed on the offensive glass, and he's the only one that can helps them that tide. Maybe Jay Crowder. Crowder needs to help, too, with the rebounding. But they're the big... Look, if Milwaukee plays big, which we know they don't always do, they'll have size, but they'll shoot too many threes. And
I'm counting on that.
They don't always play smart. So that's a big issue. If they just want to pound it inside, that would be more trouble for Phoenix, for sure.
The only game that's gotten out of hand, Skip, was what game? Game 3. Ayton was in foul trouble. That was really the only game that wasn't interesting. All the other games were really, really interesting down the stretch. So I agree with you, Chris. I believe they're going to let DeAndre Ayton play. They're not going to call the little ticky-tack fouls. Now, I'm not just saying go out there and try to pull a Devin Booker and wrap the guy up and think they're not going to call that because you're not going to get that benefit of the doubt the rest of the series because it's like, well, I thought he had the ball. He did have the ball, but he had his right arm around Drew Holiday's waist and tied him up. So I believe Ayton plays big tonight. I believe he gives you somewhere around 12 points and like 18 rebounds, and they win this ball game. I believe they cover. You want some of that, Skip?
Nope. I want none of it.
We're not going to do that?
Wayne's got me.
All right, he does have you. I love that news from you, Skip. You got the inside scoop always. Chris, thank you for your time, for joining us.
No mercy.
According to a source close to Damian Lillard, the Blazers star plans to request a trade from Portland in the upcoming days. Dame is signed through 2024, but he's reportedly been unhappy with the franchise's overall direction after another early playoff exit that led to an off-season coaching change. Shannon, big news here. Do you believe he'll be traded?
I do. And I've said, I didn't second guess this, third guess this. Skip, I said this. I see Dame Lillard. I watch how hard he trains. I watch the time and the effort that he puts into his game. I see he's going to get tired of these early exits. And he's seen, Skip, this is a different era. And everybody says, well, Magic didn't team up with Bird, and Bird didn't team up with Jordan, and Jordan didn't team up with Olajuwon. That was the 80s and the 90s. This is a different era. He sees Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden. He saw Kevin Durant go to Golden State. He saw LeBron and what he did in Miami and then turn around and go to L.A. and bring on AD. And he realizes him by himself is not going to get it done. I get tired, not loyal to the soil. Oh, I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to win it here. No, you're not. And he realized, he come to the realization, I cannot win a title in Portland. And nobody's going to want to join me, even though I'm a great player. Nobody wants to come to Portland to join me. So I'm going to have to go link up with them. And I have no problem with that. So kudos to him finally realizing. Kevin Garnett said the one regret that he had is that he didn't leave Minnesota sooner. Because, Skip, he wanted to remain loyal. He was a part of that old guard that didn't move. You stayed there, you won a title, and if you didn't win a title, oh well. And then maybe on your last leg, Skip, you got out and tried to go win a title. No more. Now these guys have said, I'm leaving in my prime. I want to win because Skip Bayless judges me unfairly. If I don't get a title, I'm not great. I'm not a superstar. So now I'm going to go get this title and let you say Michael Jordan never did that. But you won't say, I'm not like Michael Jordan when I don't have no titles because I'm finna go get me one.
Did you just compare Damian Lillard to Michael Jordan?
There you go. See, Skip Bayless, you do that every time. I did not compare Dame Lillard to Mike.
So here's my biggest issue with this development or potential development. You know Chauncey Billups. I've known Chauncey for a long time. Big fan of Chauncey as a player and as a potential coach. And I thought Portland did a great job of picking Chauncey. I am fully aware of the rape allegation against Chauncey back in his rookie year in the NBA.
Yep.
And I take that obviously very seriously, as I think the Blazers did also. But
yes,
Damian was offended because after he had endorsed several candidates, including Chauncey, then he felt like he got blamed by Blazer fans on Twitter for endorsing a candidate with a rape allegation. And he was furious about that. And his tweet suggested, okay, if that's how you want to play it, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seemed like that's where it all started. But the bottom line is that Chauncey will be a very good, maybe a great basketball coach. I think he was a great assistant for Ty Lue with the Clippers this year.
I agree.
So I think it could be a very advantageous position for Damian to be in, to learn even more under Chauncey, to grow even more than he has already under Chauncey. So I hate this for Chauncey if Chauncey gets left high and dry because Dame forces his way out of Portland the way James Harden forced his way out of Houston.
It's a Steven Silas situation, Skip. It's a Steven Silas Jr. situation. He gets an ideal job with a superstar, and the superstar doesn't want to be there, and he only plays 5 or 6 games, and then he's up out of there.
Okay, just for the record, Damian is still under contract to the Portland Trail Blazers through 2024. So it's not like he's a pending free agent or another year before free agency. He's locked up by Portland. So he's going to have to force his way out, a la James or maybe Aaron Rodgers. We'll see how that plays out in Green Bay. And he's going to have to be willing to, quote unquote, get his hands dirty because it's going to get ugly if he wants to force his way out. That whole fandom's going to turn on him. I do think his value is very high right now.
Oh, Scott.
And I think he is very well liked by players, other stars around the league.
Absolutely.
And remember, he's now been with Team USA for a couple of weeks and been around other stars. And it sort of breeds, you know, we could do this, we could do that. And enthusiasm starts to run away. Well, maybe I could be with you, or maybe we could team up over here.
Skip, that's how it normally happens, Skip. Remember 2008? D-Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron.
I got it.
Remember the All-Star game? Was it the All-Star game? Maybe the Olympics with KD and Kyrie. So you're right. Yeah, we start getting like, oh, man, hey, what if we link up?
Here we go.
No mercy. Thanks. And in a recent interview, get this, Hall of Famer Vlade Divac was asked about Michael Jordan's dominance when the two played in the league back in the 90s, and the big man didn't hold back in his praise for MJ. He said this: if you have Jordan in today's NBA, he would be averaging 80 points per game because of the rules. Shannon, is there any truth to this?
No, I don't believe he can average 80. Skip, there have only been 2 games in NBA history in which a player scored over 80. Obviously, we know Will averaged, he's got 100, and Kobe scored 81. But in the season that Will averaged 50 points a game, Skip, he did that on 35 shots per game, shooting 50%. He shot like 17 free throws a game. Jordan, in his highest season, Skip, he scored 37 points a game at 86-87. He did that on 38 shots, 12 free throw attempts per game. So I believe in today's game, Skip, if he, without the three, and I'm saying he's going to get better at shooting the three because he's only a 33% three-point shooter. I'm going to say he could average somewhere between 40 to maybe 44 if he improved the three ball. I just don't know if he can get to 50, Skip, with just twos in today's game.
I am always realistic when it comes to the GOAT, to Michael Jordan, who's in another stratosphere from LeBron James. I'm going to be so realistic. I'll say he could average 50 a game in today's NBA. The soft rules, the no touching rules, he would terrorize today's game, both physically and psychologically. So I'll go 50, and I think you were hedging up toward 50.
No, I'm Skip, because here's the thing, Skip. He averaged 37 on 38 shots a game, shooting about 48%. So what I'm saying is, how much is he going to improve the three ball? Because James Harden averaged 36, Skip, and he was shooting 12 threes a night. So how many threes is Jordan going to shoot, and what's his percentage going to be? Because I believe that's the only way.
As many as he would want to shoot.
Okay.
Non-stop. Skip Shannon, great stuff today. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Game 5. We will be all over it on Monday, of course.
Go to the Lakers, Dame.
Starts now.
Dame to the Lakers.